So first, I just want to give you an overview of the next couple of weeks. I did this last week, so this shouldn't be anything new. Head up, please. We're right here, Handwriting Analysis or Handwriting Lab. That takes a few days. I have it on here for 3. You guys may get it done in 2. Of course, first today you have to pass the comprehension quiz. Part of the stuff I'm going to go over today is on the comprehension quiz, so that might help you pass that in a timely manner. There's 3 parts to the handwriting analysis. I have them posted on the door back there and listed up here. But we're going to get hopefully 1 and 2 done today, 3 done tomorrow, and then Wednesday, if we're lucky, we can get to lip print. Then it's tire track after that and shoe print. Maybe on Friday, maybe Monday. We'll have to wait and see. Okay. Tire track's the only one that's, you know, it's a challenge to get done in a period. The lip print and the shoe print, they should be done in a period. I gave this to my wife. She did it in 10 minutes while she was watching TV. It's not hard, and yet people struggle with it because they don't read the directions. These last 4 labs are going to be really critical in you deciding who did it. At that point, then, we have all the information. We have 3 big culminating final assessment projects that are going to be very important to your grade. The first one is a case summary. And the case summary is a visual story using PowerPoint, telling the story of what happened, starting with the means, the motive, the opportunity, and then getting into the physical evidence. How does the physical evidence tell your story? Does it help place your suspect at the scene of the crime? Does it suggest what they were doing? Does it show how they got head of honcho out and their involvement in the case? And you're going to be presenting that in pictures as much as possible with a few words. How many of you have already used PowerPoint before? You know how to do it. Great. That really is a tool that almost all of you should have. You're going to find yourself doing at least 1, if not many projects in high school on PowerPoint. So I'm going to take you to the computer lab. We're going to spend at least 4 days working on that. And each of you are going to be responsible for about 4 slides. So one of you may do means, 1 may do motive, 1 may do opportunity. Then that first person may end up having to do 1 on the white powder lab, you do the fiber lab, you do the bite mark lab. You see what I mean? So you're assigned certain pieces of this presentation. And if you were responsible for the white powder lab, well, then that's probably the one you're going to be responsible for here as well. So that'll give you about a day or an hour each for each slide. That should be very doable. Eyes up here, Matt. Should be very doable in that time period. And your homework over this whole week then, and you will have homework, it's 1 assignment, is this written case summary. Now I have a bunch of samples up here I can show you. To some people I show them this and they freak out. Okay, there's the first page, there's the second page, there's the 3rd page, and there's the 4th page. Okay, and this isn't like the best example I have. It's an okay one, but it's 100%. It's an A, but it's not the best I've had. I've had some that did a lot more pages than that. It's not about the number of pages. What it is filling in a template. And you can check this out already. It's been on my website all along under forensics. On the front side, you fill in the means, the motive, the opportunity. You describe each of those for the suspect or suspects that you think did this. So that's not new information, but if you haven't been following along and you didn't fill in that orange table, you're not going to have a clue what to write there. If you did, you already can start work on that. Then for each of the labs, you write in. You tell me what were the lab results and how does that contribute to the story? How does that make your suspect or suspects look more guilty? You know, the fingerprints from Dusty Mop were found on head of honcho's chair. I think that suggests that he turned her chair around as he grabbed her, or whatever the case may be. So you're telling me how each piece contributes to the story. That's those 2 pages. And the last page or 2 is basically a step-by-step version of the events. So-and-so did walk into McGee Middle School on such and such a time and did this, then this, then this. And as you're telling me this, you're telling me the physical evidence. You're telling me the means, the motive, the opportunity. It's kind of like all of this stuff, but in story form. Get it? Okay? And that is exactly what you would do in a real court case. You would present the information like we are over these days, And then at the end, you would have your closing arguments. You'd stand up there and you tell the jury the whole story from beginning to end so they can keep it all straight in their head. So that'll be due on that Friday. This Friday, of course, the extra credit is due. The last week before winter break, these 2 days we'll watch those PowerPoint presentations, and one of you from each group will come up and walk us through your version of the events. And we won't all have the same story, I guarantee you. And then on Wednesday, that last Wednesday will be your forensics exam. Stuff on that from all the labs we've done and all the background information you've read. Okay? Then we have our Jeopardy on the final day. Any questions on what we're doing? Great. All right, so if you know you're going to be gone on this Friday when the extra credit's due, you want to turn it in before then, don't forget you need to present it to me as well. It's not just turn it in, you've got to walk me through and name things. And if you're going to be gone on any of the days this stuff's due, you're going to have to turn it in advance if you know you're going to be gone. All right, so what we're doing today is the handwriting analysis, and as I already pointed out to you, there are 3 distinct parts. We know that handwriting is as unique to us as our what? Speech. Okay? So even though your speech does change over the course of your life, you get maybe a rougher voice or maybe your throat is dry on a particular occasion, there are certain things that are always there about the way you talk and the tone to your voice. You know this because you may have a little brother or sister who tried to play a prank on you, or an older brother or sister, and they call you up and they pretend to be someone else, and you can kind of tell through their accent or whatever it is they're doing that they're still your brother or sister. Because those traits, you just can't hide all of them. You can try to disguise, but most people, it still slips out who they are. So in this first part of the lab, what we're going to do is we're going to be looking to see if our suspects try to disguise their handwriting. If they did try to disguise their handwriting, does that make them look more or less guilty, or tell you nothing? Makes them look more guilty. There's no good reason why someone would disguise their handwriting if they were innocent. If I arrested Mitchell, he's one of the suspects, and I think he wrote the ransom note. Okay, if he didn't do it, he's going to write the way he normally does because he knows it's not going to match the actual ransom note. So I have 3 basic pieces of evidence that I'm dealing with. I have the actual ransom note, okay? And then for each suspect, I have a copy of the ransom note that I asked them to write. What do we call this version? The blank sample. Requested sample. I requested Mitchell to write this. And here's how I might go about doing this. I say, I'm going to give him a piece of paper and a black pen. I say, Mitchell, I want you to write down the following words. On the first line, if you ever want to see, let him write that out. Hedda honcho again, comma, you need. And I have him write exactly what I see on this page. I don't let him look at the page because then he might know how to change his writing. But I read it to him for the purposes of him writing it down. What's that called? Reading aloud for the purposes of writing it down. Dictating. That's dictation. So I've dictated it to him. By the way, remember, if you're caught with gum today, you're off the lab. So I've dictated to him. So now I have his version of the ransom note, and I have the real thing. And you might just jump right ahead and just compare those. You've made a big mistake. Yes, we're going to compare those eventually. But the first thing we want to do is we want to see if he tried to disguise his handwriting. Now, our handwriting does change. I don't sign my name exactly the same every time. Sometimes I even leave a letter out when I'm not paying attention and I'm in a hurry. Okay? But there are certain characteristics about how I write that stay the same all the time. And those are the things we're going to evaluate.
What if they did it and they knew that they wrote in cursive, but wouldn't you ask them to write in cursive?
Yes, you're absolutely right. If this is printed, I'm going to say I need you to print the following. Exactly, and I would have them printed. Okay? But like I said, there are certain characteristics that you just can't hide. Now the mistake that most of you guys make is you think that, well, I don't need to be an expert. I can compare 2 kinds of handwriting and know if they match. You can't. There's more to it than that. Plus, when it comes time to present it to a jury, you better have more in your pocket than, well, they look alike. you know. You're going to analyze certain characteristics that, yeah, they may have changed a couple of these, but they're not going to change them all. So you're going to be able to still figure out it's the same person. Head up, please. So what we will do then at this point, you will have a sample of the suspect's version of the ransom note, okay, the one that was requested from them. And then you'll have a sample of their everyday writing. It could be a grocery list. It could be a note to their husband or wife. Anything. It could be a cash check. But we have a sample of their writing. Now, there's no reason to hide and disguise your writing here. This is just normal writing that they got from the suspect's home. We call this not the requested sample, but natural. Good. So we're going to compare the natural to the requested. We're looking for changes. We're looking to see if someone tried to disguise their handwriting. That makes them look more guilty. You're going to have 12 of these, 12 natural samples, 12 requested. And you're going to work on them in pairs. So you take a natural from She's a Kiss Up and a requested from She's a Kiss Up, and you put them down on your desk, okay? Then you have these 12 characteristics to comparing handwriting. Don't fall in the trap of just looking at those and trying to find something that's different and then trying to find it on the list. That's not how this is done. One way you could do this efficiently is you could give there are 3 sheets here. You could give a sheet to each member of your group. Okay? Each of these have some characteristics of handwriting. And then each person can look and evaluate those 2. And you go through everything on your list. Okay? You don't look at the writing first and then look at the list. You look at the list. I'm supposed to be evaluating, number 8 here, is pen pressure. There's 3 kinds, light, medium, or heavy. Well, these are both heavy, so that matches. So then I go on, I look at the next thing, the slant of the letters. Pretty much straight up and down, a little slanted to the right, but not that much of a change. So I would say close enough. Because remember, we don't write exactly the same every time. If it's an obvious difference, real obvious difference, then maybe they change their handwriting. Okay? Placement of diacritics is the next one on my list. Well, what's that? I see examples here. How they cross their T's. Do they do it right in the middle? Do they do it right of stem? Do they do it left of stem? Okay, well, let's see. They cross theirs right in the middle here, right in the middle there, no problem there. Those are the same. And you go through each one. Now, if you find something that is different, let's say that the pen pressure is different. Really dark on one, really light on the other. And you're going, I think that person tried to disguise their handwriting. It's your call. Then what you write is the characteristic name, pen pressure. Then you tell me how it's different. Pen pressure is darker. On which one are you talking about? The natural sample. Or you could have written this a different way. You could have said pen pressure is lighter on the requested sample. When you are done with this, you might find that 2 or maybe even 3 of the suspects appeared to change their handwriting. If you find 8, you're being too picky. They're not going to be identical. If they're just a little bit different, then you would write no significant alterations noted in each of those blocks. No ditto marks. You'll be marked wrong for that. But if there's a noticeable, obvious difference in one of those characteristics, you tell me the name of the characteristic, how it's different, and which one you're talking about. Which one is this comment about? Okay? Everybody understand that part? So now we've hopefully picked out some people that maybe changed their handwriting. We still have to see if they wrote the ransom note. The next part, when you're done with that, you're going to bring it up to me and I will give you a copy of the ransom note. That's the only thing you keep. Okay? The rest of these you're going to return to me at the end of the period. Do not write on any of these samples. This is evidence. But at this point now, you're comparing requested samples to the ransom note. And what you're trying to do is eliminate 8 suspects. Which 8 do you think don't look like they could have written it? Or put another way, how many are we going to keep? Well, there's 12 suspects. We're going to eliminate 8. So how many are we going to keep? 4. Another way of looking at it is, which 4 do we want to keep? Okay? But if you're going to eliminate a suspect, if you're going to say Mary Binbad didn't write it, you've got to give me a reason. And it's not they look different. It's one of the characteristics. So you put a check, and then you indicate which thing was different enough that you felt she couldn't have written it. Got it? That means you will have how many spaces blank? 4, or 8 if you want to count these, okay? 4 pairs, 4 suspects you won't write anything for. You'll leave those blank. You have now narrowed it down to the top 4 suspects. If you didn't write anything next to them here, those are the main 4 that you're going to evaluate in part 3. Rochelle, eyes up here, please. Okay? Any questions on this part? Now, what I will tell you, let's say that one of these suspects, let's say William Binbad, it looked like he tried to change his handwriting. Maybe you're right, maybe you're not. But when I do William Binbad, I might have to compare his natural sample to the ransom note. Do you see why? Because the requested one you think he changed. The natural one shouldn't be changed. So you might have to compare the natural to it. That's up to you, okay? When you're done with this table and you have 8 of them filled in, you show it to me, and that brings us to the last part. Now, you're not going to get to this today, so I'm just going to briefly explain what this one involves. This involves a detailed analysis, 3 different comparisons, of our top 4 suspects. And you'll take a piece of this tracing paper, and you'll take the ransom note, and you will be tracing certain words on the ransom note. The directions tell you which words. And then you'll take that same piece of paper and you'll be tracing the same words on the requested sample for each of your 4 suspects. And you'll end up with a piece of tracing paper that looks like this. One of the analysis will be top of the letter, one will be bottom of the letter, and one will be slant. And you can see this is the analysis of the ransom note, and this is the one for each of my 4 top suspects. So I'm going to compare these patterns and pick out which one looks like it's the closest match. The 3 tests or analysis that we do are top of the letter, bottom of the letter, and slant. We put little dots to mark the top of each letter formation, and we connect them together in words. And then we compare those patterns to see if it's a match. Same thing with bottom of the letter. Slant can be the trickiest one because you have to put a line through the middle point of each letter following the slant that they wrote with. If it's got vertical lines like H and N and I, it's real easy. But for things like O's and E's and A's, it gets a little bit trickier. Whoever does one of these sheets, and you're going to have 3 of them, whoever does one of these, they should do the entire thing. Okay? Because they're going to make the judgment call about what the top of the letter is. They should do it for all 4 suspects. And then somebody else can do the other sheet. And the 3rd person can do the slant one. Any questions on that? Okay, so again, to quickly review, then I'll get you out there. Step 1, pass the quiz, comprehension quiz. I've talked about a lot of this stuff. One of the questions that really hangs people up is this business of class versus individual characteristics. What we're looking at on this writing, for the most part, is class characteristics. It's not, how did they make the little end of their Y? Did it hook up or did it go straight? You know, we're not looking at those details. We're looking at punctuation, crossing T's, in general, space between letters, how they connect letters together, pen pressure. Those types of things are what we call class characteristics. It's not just how you do one letter, it's how you do all of them. You get it? The individual characteristics are how you do each individual letter formation. Okay? So you pass that quiz first, then you do this. How many people should you find might have changed their handwriting? 2 or 3. That shouldn't take you more than 15-20 minutes to do this. When you're done with that, show it to me, and I'll give you a copy of the actual ransom note. From there, then you do this table, and you eliminate how many? 8. The tables don't need to be written in complete sentences. However, there are questions in the last part where you do need to make sure you answer all of those questions in complete sentences. And you question together, pin